E3 2012 has come and gone, and while I wasn't able to personally attend the event, I did keep up with all the press conferences and news of the show. This year's show wasn't the best I've seen, but there were some good and some not so good things shown this year. So I decided for this week's top 10 list to count down the 5 best and 5 worst things of E3 2012. I'm going to start things off by talking about what I thought were the worst things of the show, and then move on to what I consider to be the best of the show. The number 5 worst thing of E3 would be unnecessary sequels. Now, I'm not one of those people who's against any sequel, but there were several games at this year's show that just come off as completely unnecessary. I am looking forward to some sequels I saw at the show, like Assassin's Creed 3, and while I don't think Halo 4 is going to be great, I am intrigued to see where it goes. However, the two that really stuck out in my mind as being completely superfluous were God of War Ascension and Gears of War Judgment. For both those series, they ended on a really high note, and I really don't need anything more from them. To make matters worse, what we have seen of these two new games looks exactly like what we've seen from games in the past. At least with stuff like Halo 4 and Assassin's Creed 3, it looks like they're moving the series forward, but God of War Ascension and Gears of War Judgment look like complete and utter cash-ins. Now, don't get me wrong, I loved both Gears of War 3 and God of War 3, but because of how good they are, there's only room to go down, and just cranking out more games in that series can only result in sequel fatigue. Now, I could be proven wrong when these games come out. They could wind up being awesome, but from what I've seen so far, it looks like just more of the same, and that's not what I'm looking for out of a sequel, especially this late in the generation.
We've been hard at work on a completely new experience that I think you'll agree is truly innovative.
Number 4 is the Wonder Books demo. Now, obviously, I'm not the target audience for this game, but they spent way too much time talking about this game during the Sony press conference. I actually thought the Sony press conference was the best of the 3 console manufacturers, but the Wonder Books segment really dragged things to a screeching halt. I mean, it's bad enough that they spent 10 to 15 minutes talking about what is essentially the same type of AR technology we've been seeing since the original iToy came out, but the way they presented it was just excruciatingly boring. Add to that the technical difficulties and just the weird way they were presenting that game, and it just really killed the flow of that press conference.
Okay, well, it is a live demo, so...
And with the introduction of Bing Voice Search on Xbox, we made it easier and 4 times faster to find the entertainment you want. So now, we're going to make it even simpler. Starting this fall, you'll be able to find what you want to watch by genre. You say it, and Xbox finds it.
Number 3 is the lack of any real big surprises. One of my favorite things of E3 press conferences is the "oh, and one more thing" announcements right at the end, where it's something mind-blowing and amazing that is probably not going to come out for a while, but just piques your interest enough that you want to see more. Other than Watch Dogs, we really didn't have that. Nintendo closed out with fireworks from Nintendo Land. Microsoft went out with Call of Duty Black Ops 2, which we already know a ton about. Sony finished up with The Last of Us, which did look awesome, but again, we knew a ton about it already. And EA talked about nothing but sequels for their entire show. Watch Dogs was amazing, and it looks really cool, but that was really the only big announcement we got. What makes sitting through 90 minutes of boring press conferences worth it is the 2 minutes of a crazy teaser for something you didn't see coming in a million years, and we just didn't get that this year.
It is my extreme pleasure to introduce you to Ubisoft's lineup of new games for 2012 and beyond. And joining me today is going to be the internet sensation known across the web as Tobuscus. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Toby Turner, give it up.
Thank you.
There he
Sit
is.
down. Sit down, please. Thank you.
Toby, no one's gotten up, buddy. No one's up.
Well, you're standing.
I'm standing up because I have to.
I'm
not
also-
for you.
The number 2 worst thing of E3 2012 is the on-stage antics during the Ubisoft conference. Now, from a purely game perspective, I'd say the Ubisoft press conference was by far the best. But their on-stage banter was just awful.
Toby, do you want to come out and help me introduce this?
As long as I can make an entrance. Can I make an entrance?
You can make... Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Toby
dropped my
Tobuscus
lock.
Turner.
I dropped my mic.
Okay, maybe that was a big entrance, but maybe not the one that you wanted.
Now, I don't think this year's was as cringeworthy as last year's Ubisoft conference with the infamous Mr. Caffeine.
Yikes!
But it was pretty bad. I think Aisha Tyler was probably trying her best to put on a good show, but that Tobuscus guy they had on there was just awful.
Did I just see a Wii U logo, more importantly?
Yeah, Toby, it was the Wii U logo. Oh my God. Yeah, because in our next segment, we are going to be presenting, well, you guessed it.
The Wii U.
Wow. Okay, you did guess it. Yeah.
Now, I understand Ubisoft is a French company, and it's kind of tough for them to have their corporate people up there with their thick accents and such, but getting celebrities and internet idiots on there to do their press conference is not the way either.
We started off at the top today showing you a game because that's what's most important about this presentation. It's all about the games.
And my number one worst thing of E3 2012 was the Nintendo press conference. Now, coming in, I had such high hopes for the Nintendo conference, and I was looking forward to it way more than anything else. And it did not deliver at all. I was expecting huge announcements, but they barely showed anything interesting at all. Pikmin 3, yes, it's a new announcement from a great franchise, but we sort of already knew it was coming several years ago. Even if now it's on the Wii U, it's still, we knew about this game. And New Super Mario Bros. U looks like another new Super Mario Bros. Game, which it'll probably be good, but I just don't want to play another one of those. I've had enough. And other than that, I mean, Ubisoft had a better showing on the Wii U than Nintendo did, with stuff like Rayman Legends and Zombie U, which I'm not sold on yet, but it does look sort of interesting. Nintendo just didn't bring it. Like, more Wii Fit, okay. I mean, you already put 2 of those out. Nintendo Land is not going to be Wii Sports, no matter how hard they want it to be. And I also couldn't believe how much time they spent on Batman Arkham City. Okay, he has armor now, and you've added some goofy motion stuff and tablet and touch controls, but I already played that game, and so did most people. I don't know how they expect to sell a console saying, you can play a game you played last year. If they're setting aside, 5 to 10% of their conference to talk about games that are already out, there's something wrong. I was expecting something big, a 3D Mario game, a Zelda game, Metroid, Star Fox, something, Donkey Kong, anything. But they didn't bring anything except another new Super Mario Bros. Game and Pikmin, which we already knew about. They dropped the ball. Now that we've got all that negativity out of the way, let's talk about what I thought were the best things of the show.
How many times have you been watching an episode of South Park and thought, I'd like to be able to watch this on my television while hooked into my mobile device, which is being controlled by my tablet device, which is hooked into my oven, all while sitting in the refrigerator?
My number 5 pick is the South Park game. Now, South Park obviously has a long track record of bad games, but this one looks like it's finally going to break that trend. Not only does it look exactly like the show, it's being made by Obsidian, who tend to make pretty good games, and being written by the writers of the show. I'm not really sure what the gameplay is going to be like, but we already know the humor and the look are there.
We need a savior who can undo that which has been done. I'll do it. Saviors can't be saviors, remember?
And I have a feeling Obsidian is capable of putting together some decent gameplay systems to go along with that. It's not likely to end up being a Game of the Year contender, but from what I've seen of it, South Park: The Stick of Truth looks to be pretty cool. At number 4, I've got Assassin's Creed 3. Now, to put it in perspective, I saw a pretty lengthy gameplay demo of Assassin's Creed 3 back at PAX, so I already had a pretty good idea of what we were going to be seeing from this game. But even so, it still looks awesome. Assassin's Creed 3 was already one of my most anticipated games of the year, so obviously I knew going in that I was going to like what I saw. And I didn't really see that much new other than naval combat, which I'm not quite sold on yet, but regardless, Assassin's Creed 3 is going to be awesome, and I can't wait for it to come out.
That's her! That's her! She's getting away!
Tell them to leave me the fuck alone, because next time, I'll kill everyone. Come on, Aiden. I think they get the message.
My third best thing at E3 2012 has got to be Beyond. Heavy Rain was not quite a masterpiece, but it was an interesting step forward for the adventure game genre, and Beyond looks to be building off that in some cool ways. I'm a big proponent of quality storytelling in games, and Quantic Dream has always done their best to push the medium forward in that regard, and Beyond looks to be the best thing they've done. I'm not quite sure exactly how this game is going to play, but it sure looked awesome, and the cinematics and direction were really impressive. And overall, I'm pretty excited to see how the game turns out.
You're a liar. I know the truth. I know how you think. I see the digital shadow you cast.
Like I said earlier, there weren't too many big surprises this year. So you can bet I'm putting the one surprise we did have pretty high on this list. Number 2. That surprise obviously being Watch Dogs, which I don't think anyone saw coming. Aside from the excitement of it being a new IP in an unknown game, what we saw of it looked pretty cool too. I like the idea of being able to hack anything and find new ways of solving problems. I was a little disappointed when the shooting started, just because at that point it looked like yet another open world sandbox game with a lot of shooting in it. But I'm hoping that there are other ways to play the game other than a straight up combat approach. And from what we saw, it looks like that may be the case. I'm also not sure what to make of the multiplayer tease they showed at the end, but even though I'm not completely sold on everything I saw in the trailer, it was enough to pique my interest, and I can't wait to get more information on this game. And my number one best thing of E3 2012 is The Last of Us. Even before the E3 demo, I was already really looking forward to this game, but what I saw just makes me want it even more. I love the way combat seems so brutal and real in this game, and it's addressing a major complaint I had with the Uncharted games. I just couldn't get over the way you just mowed down dozens and dozens of enemies at a time without ever breaking a sweat in Uncharted, and Nathan Drake just constantly cracking wise at all the people he's murdering. But this game feels so much more grounded and real. I love the fact that an encounter with just a few guys is a major challenge, and the whole thing just seemed much more realistic than Uncharted, despite being in a post-apocalyptic setting. I was also very encouraged when I dug a little deeper and learned that that same demo was showed to some people at the show and played in a completely different way where no one was killed at all. And that just confirms that this game is really going to be something special, and I can't wait to play it.
Okay, now what?
Take it easy. Take it easy. Oh, fuck. Let him go. You fucking drug him. No. Shit. Come here.